Welcome to Fairy the Greyhound. It's the bank holiday weekend and we've come down to Dorset to go to the beaches on the Jurassic Coast and find some interesting fossils. It's only a short drive from where we live down to Dorset, about 3 hours. The Jurassic Coast is a 95-mile long stretch of coastline in southern England. It's a World Heritage Site famous for its fossils, rock formation and landforms. Today we've brought Fairy to Charmouth Beach to have a nice run around, although it is quite a pebbly beach, so we had to walk further down to find some sand for her to run on. Dogs are allowed on this beach, so Fairy was let off the lead. She enjoyed wandering around. She saw lots of other dogs on the beach, and she did some digging with us for fossils. Charmouth and Lyme Regis are two of the best beaches in the area for finding ammonites. Ammonites are creatures which swam in the sea during the Jurassic period 200 million years ago. They died out around the same time as the dinosaurs at the end of the Cretaceous period 66 million years ago. We wandered along the beach with Fairy and kept stopping to dig through the stones to see if we could find any ammonites. Fairy was very unimpressed at having to keep stopping and waiting for us. She got very bored and did lots of whining. But it wasn't long before we found an ammonite. Fairy wasn't impressed with it at all. She just wanted me to get her ball out and start throwing it for her to chase along the beach. She did do a bit of digging herself, but I don't think she was looking for ammonites. I think she was trying to make the ground nice and soft so she could have a lay down. Fairy doesn't like standing up for very long. I don't think she was too impressed with this beach either, as it wasn't a comfortable spot to lay. There were too many pebbles everywhere. Fairy just lay there for ages, looking very unimpressed as she watched us hunting for fossils. Not her idea of a fun day at the beach. It was quite funny to watch, as every single person on this beach had their head down looking at the rocks as they walked along, or were kneeling down scrabbling about in the rocks. Everyone that comes to this beach seems to be obsessed with finding fossils. We did find a few more as the day went on. They weren't too impressive, but at least we found something. The weather eventually warmed up and Fairy took her coat off, had another lay down and met some friends. These two huge Great Danes made Fairy look tiny. We took Fairy for a nice long walk a bit further down the beach, and we found some sandy areas where she could have a run around and play with her ball. She didn't like walking over the stones. I think it hurt her poor pads. As we walked back down the beach towards the car park, we found a few more fossils on the way. And we looked at the rock formation and the different layers of rock in the area which the cliffs had collapsed. When we got back to the car park, we made some friends. A greedy seagull and some ducks were hanging around the van as we ate our lunch, waiting for us to drop crumbs. The ducks were so friendly that they even took food out of our hands. We gave them some of Fairy's leftover lunch as she had had fish. Then we went and had a look in the fossil shop. They must have smelt nice because Fairy spent ages sniffing around the different boxes of fossils that were on the floor. They had some pretty impressive fossils from all around the world in this shop, but the prices, if you wanted one of those big ones, it would have cost you about £300. We had a quick look in the museum and learned all about how fossils are formed. Then Fairy had another quick nap on the beach before we headed back to the campsite. Fairy was sleeping in our small tent with me on this trip. It was a very, very wet night. We had so much heavy rain and even some thunder. Go on then.
Your tarp. No, your tarp's full of water. Like a big hanging bowl of water. That was a bad night.
My friend's tarp had collapsed in the night and gathered a big pool of water. And one of our strings of fairy lights had snapped too. I even heard thunder in the night, did you? After Fairy had had her breakfast of cooked chicken breasts, which I had to boil up in my jet boil, we went for a little walk around the campsite. As soon as we got back to our camping area, Fairy wanted to get back into the tent so she could lay down in the dry and warm. She was sleeping on top of her duvet with a silver thermal mat underneath it to keep the warmth so that it didn't get too cold for her on the floor. She had her pyjamas on and she had my old sleeping bag over her to keep her warm in the night. If you'd like to hear about our wild camp in more detail, look out for our video entitled Wild Camping, where you will see the whole of our camping setup and what went on while we were there. As always, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to click your subscribe button and turn on your notifications, and we'll see you again soon for another Dorset video.